everybody find a comfortable seat. Sounds like not everybody's muted. I'm going to take a moment here and just make sure everybody is indeed muted. Okay, that should do it. Okay. And so before we get started, just want to talk about an anatomical structure quickly, because we're going to have a lot of focus on that as we move through class today, and also really in our very beginning breath settling in time. So we've talked about this before, but it's been quite a while. The sit bones, when I ask people where their sit bones are, they very often put their hands somewhere here on the back of their pelvis. And that's not where you sit. We don't sit way back on the back of our pelvis, right? We sit on the bottom of it. So the sit bones are actually deep down underneath. They point out straight down to the ground if you're standing. They're sort of, if you can imagine going in from the side of my hips and thighs, they're somewhere in the middle there, and they point straight down. They're those sticky outy points at the very bottom of your pelvis. So we're going to focus on that area of the pelvis today. So go ahead and close your eyes and sit tall in your chair. So don't sit way back against the back of the chair, but instead sit up straight so that your shoulders are right over your hips and your knees are right over your ankles and heels. So nice, tall, straight seat. And then see if perhaps you can sense your sitting bones. Again, they're those sticky outy points at the very bottom of your pelvis. And right now, if you're sitting tall, they're pretty much pointing straight down to the ground. You should be sitting right on them. If you're on a more cushiony seat, it may be hard to feel them or sense them. But if you're on a harder chair, it might be a little bit easier to sense them. If you can't feel them, don't worry about it, just imagine them. We'll start with an imagination exercise for our breath. Picture, if you will, your breath coming into your body from the crown of your head, the very top of your head, in through a point at the top of your skull. Breathe that air in down the length of your body, down through an imaginary central channel. And then let the breath flow out of your body, down through your sitting bones into the floor. So stay with that image, inhaling through the crown of your head, down through the center of your body, exhaling out through your sitting bones, down to the earth. Keep that going. Getting heavy through your seat. Sensing the sitting bones as your foundation for stability. One more breath like that, in through the crown of the head and out through the bottom of the pelvis. And then we're going to shift the imaginary direction of your breath. This time, breathe in through your sitting bones, through the very base of your pelvis. And as you do so, gently draw up on the pelvic floor muscles, so that feeling as if you're stopping the flow of urine. As you breathe in, gently lift those muscles in and up, And as you breathe out, release those muscles again. Let the breath flow down through your sit bones into the floor. So breathing in through the sit bones, drawing up on the pelvic floor. Breathing out through the sit bones, releasing the muscles of the pelvic floor. Keep it going. Inhaling, drawing up. Exhaling, releasing down. Just a few more like that. We're simply drawing our attention to that region of the body. And then let all of that go. Go ahead and float your eyes open. And take your hands to your hips, your fingers wrapping forward and the thumbs reaching back. And we're gonna work on moving the pelvis. So tip your pelvis forward as if you're tipping water out towards me. So you're tipping it forward, sticking your tushy out behind you, and maybe a little bit of an arch in your low back. And then come back to neutral. And then tip the bowl backwards as if you're rounding your low back behind you and tucking your tail under. And then back to neutral. I'll sit sideways. You may be able to see a little bit better. I'm wearing black and the chair's black, so it's kind of difficult to see. But a forward tilt, I'm tipping my pelvis forward. My sitting bones are moving back behind me. And back to neutral. Now they're pointing straight down to the ground. And then a reverse tilt. My tail is tucking towards my knees. My sit bones are pointing towards my knees. And then back to neutral. Do that a few more times. Just rocking forward and back. And as you do so, maybe you can even feel the sit bones as you come through center and rock back. And come through center and rock forward. You may be able to feel them connecting to the chair. And then start to circle around. So you're shifting weight from one half of the pelvis to the other. Maybe you can feel your sit bones now as you rock to one side, around in a circle, and over to the other. And reverse direction, circle it around. Feel the shift of weight from buttock to buttock. Maybe again you feel the sit bone. Maybe you're just imagining it, that's okay. And then right back to center. And then shift your weight over to your right tushy cheek, your right hip. And then over to your left tushy cheek. And come back to center. Interlace your hands. Press your palms forward. As you breathe in, lift your arms up overhead and find a forward tilt in your pelvis. So you're backward bending, right? Your low back is scooping in towards your belly button. You're arching your back. Your sit bones are pointing behind you. And then do the opposite. Press your hands forward, rounding your spine, belly button moving back, tailbone tucking towards your knees, and your sit bones are pointing towards your knees. And then let's move back and forth between those two movements. Inhale, lift up, arch your back, forward tilt of the pelvis. Exhale, press the arms forward, reverse tilt of the pelvis, you're tucking your tail. Keep it going. Inhaling and exhaling. With particular attention on what's happening in your pelvis, in your hips, and can you feel the sit bones as you rock over them, forward and back. And then release your arms, roll up, sit tall, take a breath in. Take a breath out. Take your right hand to the chair seat or the chair leg, and then lift your left arm up tip over to the right, take a side bend, and you can feel how the weight's shifting into that right hip, right tushy cheek. And now, can you bring some additional weight into the left hip? So root that left sit bone down, even as you're reaching over to the right. Come back up. Take your left hand down to the chair, wherever it meets. Right arm lifts up, tip over. Feel the shift of weight into the left sit bone, and then root down through the right one again, even as you're reaching to the left. That sitting bone on the right rooting down is going to help you find a little bit more length in the right side body area. And come back to center. Take a gentle twist over to the right. And then over to the left. Come through center, just twist it over. And back through center. Lift your arms, take a deep breath. Exhale your fingertips to your shoulders. Breathe in and lift your rib cage up off your hips. Get a little taller. Exhale, turn to the right. Come back to center, breathe in. Again, lift up a little taller. Exhale, twist to the left. Come back to center, release your arms. Take a nice full breath in. And a nice full breath out. And start to roll your head around. Make some neck circles. Go the other direction. And right back up to center. Drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. If you like, you could wrap your left arm around behind your back, putting your hand at the small of your back, or even a little further towards the right side of your waist. This is optional. If this feels like too much for you, just leave your hand on your thigh. And then come right back up to center. Drop your left ear towards your left shoulder. Pause here. And then perhaps you'd like to take that half bind again. It's optional, but you might slide the back of the right hand towards your low back or towards the left side waist area. And then lift your head back to center. Roll your shoulders back a few times. Really intentional, mindful, squeeze the shoulder blades together as you go back and broaden them as you go forward. And then reverse directions. Good, shrug your shoulders up by your ears and then soften them down and away and just let them relax. Let the shoulders get heavy. Interlace your fingers together and start to make little circles around with your wrists, like you're making infinity signs or figure eights. Roll them around. Reverse directions if you can. It's challenging. And then squeeze your hands together, open them up, give them a shake. Open and close your fingers several times. And then take your arms straight out from your shoulders, fingertips extended. Point your fingertips down to the ground, bend at the wrist. Take the fingertips straight out again. Point the fingertips up to the ceiling, again, bending at the wrist. Circle it around, wrist circles. Reverse directions. And release your hands to your lap. Sit a little bit further forward on your chair. Extend your right leg out and then point your toes to the ground And then put your heel down and lift your toes up towards your kneecap. We'll do that a few times. Point and flex and point and flex. And then maybe you roll your ankle around one direction and then the other direction. Replace your foot. Extend the left leg, point your toes down, and then heel down, toes up, and back and forth. Point and flex, point and flex. Roll your ankle around in circles, one direction and the other direction. And then release that down. Take your hands underneath your right thigh. Maybe you can interlace your hands. It's okay to lean forward to grab the interlace. That's totally fine. Because when you sit up, you're gonna pull your leg up with you. So just pick the leg up off the ground. Yeah. And then start to roll that hip around. Make some circles around. Go the other direction. And put it down, switch sides. Interlace your hands under your thighs, sit up tall, pull your leg up with you, roll the hip around. And reverse directions. And put it back down. Back to the right side, hands underneath your thigh, sit tall, draw the leg up. This time, keep sitting up nice and tall and pull the leg in a little bit more with you. Now notice how doing so puts your right half of your pelvis, your right hip area, into a little bit of a backward tilt, right? So your sitting bone is now pointing a little bit forward towards me. And then put it down, feel how your sit bone shifts back a little bit. Left side, hands under your thigh, sit tall, pull your leg up with you, keep drawing it up, and feel how your pelvis tilts backwards a little bit. Little bit of reverse tilt, the sit bone is now pointing a little bit farther forward towards me. Release the foot down and the sit bone slides back a little bit. Okay, take a breath. And let it go. Now sit back further in your chair, still sitting up tall, shoulders over hips. We're not leaning back into the chair, we're sitting tall, but back so that your thighs are really supported by the seat. Okay, so most of your thighs are supported by something underneath you. Now, press firmly into your left foot. Feel the whole foot connecting down. Really push. You might even feel a little activity happening in your thigh as you push down into the left heel in particular. Now keep that push down. Now push your right foot forward. So your leg is lifting off the ground. You're extending it out at the knee. You're pushing forward through the right heel. Stay here. Concentrate. Push down through the left heel. Push forward through the right heel. And then let that go. Other side, press down, really actively push your foot into the ground on the right, the heel in particular. Now extend the left leg, press forward through the left heel. So you're pushing down through the right heel. You're pressing forward through the left heel. Really active. And put it down. Rest for a moment, take a breath. Now, same action, but think this time about your sit bone relating to the heel on its own side. So press down through your left heel. Imagine your left sit bone energetically pushing down into your left heel. And then extend your right leg and imagine your right sitting bone energetically extending to your right heel. So they're moving down and forward. One is moving straight down, one is moving forward. Really feel, imagine those connections. Sit bone to heel, release. Other side. Sit bone on the right, push it down towards that right heel, connect it. And then sit bone on the left, reach it forward towards the left heel. Press down, push out, and release. Give your knees a little swish, open and close, side to side. Okay, now come up to stand behind your chair. I'm going to shift mine so that we have hopefully a better view from the side. And stand tall. Right? So standing with your head balanced on top of your spine, shoulders over your hips, and hips over heels. Now, can you imagine here in this standing position, those sitting bones pointing straight down and connecting with your heels, each one on its own side, really connecting down. Now soften your knees just a little bit, not so much that you're in a chair pose, but just a tiny little bit of bend at the knees so that you can have some freedom in the pelvis to move. Take your hands to your hips. Now, if you need a hand on the chair, keep one hand on the chair. Okay, that's totally fine. If not, both hands to your hips. Either way is okay. And then we're going to just work on forward and backward tilting at the pelvis. So a forward tilt means your tushy sticks out behind you and you get a little more divot there in your low back. Come back to center. And then a reverse tilt means that your tail is tucking under and moving forward. Your sit bones are pointing towards your knees now. And bring it back to center. And then just rock forward and back like that. Just rocking from your pelvis, from your hip region. Rock it forward, rock it back. Good, and come up to stand, shake it out, take a break, release, breathe. All right, now sit down into a chair pose. So a little bit deeper bend in the knees. Support yourself at the back of the chair. And imagine in your mind, see if you can sense a connection from each sit bone down to its own heel. Sit bone to heel connection here in this posture. Stand up, give your thighs a break for a moment. And then once again, have a seat in your chair pose, and we're gonna work on those pelvic tilts here. Rocking the pelvis forward and back, and forward and back in this chair pose. As you do so, you might be able to picture in your mind's eye sitting bones moving back, sitting bones moving forward, shift them back, shift them forward. Those little points at the very bottom. Stand up, give your thighs a break, take a breath. And release your breath. Okay, now come to stand at the side of your chair. Doesn't really matter which side. One hand on your chair for support. And take a moment and make sure that you feel evenly rooted in both of your feet, right and left. Think about that sitting bone to heel connection. So your sitting bones are pretty narrow. They're not out here. They're not at the outer width of the hips, of the pelvis. They're kind of right in the middle of, you can picture them sort of in the middle of your thigh almost, even towards the inner part of your thigh. Pretty narrow. So think about those narrow sit bones right down to your heels. Okay, and then shift your weight into one foot. Doesn't really matter which one. We're going to do both sides. As you shift your weight, again, connect the sit bone to the heel. So if you're shifting your weight by cocking a hip, that means the sitting bone's now kind of pointing out to the side, right? It's not really pointing down to your heel. So point the sit bone to the heel as your weight shifts, and then lift the opposite knee. Think sit bone to heel on that standing leg. Think sit bone to heel on the lifted knee. Put it down. Shift your weight to the other leg. Again, make sure you're not cocking the hip out, because that's not really, then your sit bone is kind of shooting out to the side there. So we want it really pointing straight down to that heel and lift the opposite knee. Sit bone to heel, root down, and then point it forward. Feel that connection. And place it back down. We're going to do the same thing again. And if you like, you can straighten the lifted leg. You don't have to. I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see why this might be interesting. So if I press down into one foot, go ahead and do that, pick a foot, any foot, root that sit bone down to its own heel, lift up through the opposite leg, and then if you want, extend the leg. Here's the thing, if you extend it, are you then tucking both sit bones? No, neither one is going towards its heel really, they're just kind of moving forward. So what you want to try to do is to extend that leg, but keep the sit bone to heel connection. So you don't want to lose that. You want to press down and press forward. You might even have to feel like you're sticking your tushy back a little bit. Put it down, shift your weight to the other side, lift your knee. Again, you can keep the knee bent or you can extend your leg. If you extend your leg, try not to lose that sit bone to heel connection in the standing leg. Think about moving the sit bone back if you're tending it to go forward, right? Move it back. And then release, a little wiggle. Okay. Face the seat of your chair. So if you're standing on the side, just turn so you're facing the seat of your chair. Again, you can keep one hand on the chair. Okay. Shift your weight into one foot. Find that sit bone to heel connection. Make sure you're not cocking that hip out to the side. Then step the other foot onto the seat of the chair. As you do so, think strongly in your standing leg, sit bone to heel, press down. Even in the leg that's lifted on the chair, can you find that sit bone to heel connection? You might feel like there's a diagonal line from your sit bone to that heel. And think about that really strongly. Root down, reach forward, just like we did when we were sitting. Maybe you want to lift an arm up into the sky. Maybe you lift both, but you could definitely keep a hand on your chair. Okay, bring your arm or arms down, take that leg off, come back to center, shift your weight. The leg that was on the chair is now going to be your standing leg. Shift your weight, lift the other leg up onto the seat of the chair, and take your time. Really focus in your mind, concentrate on finding that connection, sit bone straight down to heel, sit bone into the heel that's lifted, diagonal line of energy into that heel. And then maybe you lift an arm, and again, maybe you lift both, but that's not necessary. You could. And then bring the arms down and bring the leg down. And this time come to the back of your chair. Come to stand right behind the chair. With your right foot in front, step your left foot back, maybe, I don't know, a couple feet. Doesn't have to be super far. Make sure that your feet are separated widthwise so that they're not on a tightrope. I don't want them like this, I want them like this, separated for stability, okay? Left and right separated. Bend your front knee. This is a warrior one position. And in this position, your right leg, which is your front leg, that half of your pelvis is in a tiny bit of a reverse tilt so that you can point your sit bone towards the right heel. The left half of your pelvis is in a tiny bit of forward tilt so you can point the left sit bone back towards its heel. So imagine that in your head. Just imagine it. And then step forward and switch sides. Left foot's in front, right foot steps back. Plant your feet so that you feel stable and secure, enough width between them, side to side. And again, think about those relationships. A little bit of reverse tilt. It's tipping back in space just a little bit so that the sit bone can reach to the heel. And then my back leg, my right leg, little forward tilt so the sit bone can reach back to its own heel. Really important for stability. You do this every time you take a step. When you walk, there is a constant movement, a little bit of the sit bones and the pelvic halves shifting along with your legs to give you stability as you walk. And then step forward and stand tall. Once again, right foot in front, left leg steps back, but this time, keep the left heel lifted off the ground as you bend the right knee. So you're in what's called high lunge. It's a little bit less stable because you don't have both feet firmly on the ground. Only one foot is firmly on the ground. The other one is only half on the ground. So by nature, this is a more difficult pose to balance in. If you think about the sit bone to heel connection on each leg, you may find that it feels a little bit more stable. Step forward and switch sides. Step back, bend your front knee, and think about each sit bone to heel. And once again, step forward. Okay, now we're going to switch sides so that my first side I'm facing you. Step back with your right leg and make sure that both feet are well planted, both feet connected to the ground, enough space left and right that you feel stable. Now, keep your right hand on the chair, take your left hand to your left shoulder, and start to turn your body to the left. And then think about sit bone to heel on each side. Notice if you cocked your left hip out when you were turning. If you did, the left sitting bone's now veering out to the left rather than connecting to heel. So, can you find that sit bone to heel connection even as you turn? And then step forward, relax. Other side, step the right leg back. Left hand on the chair, right hand to right shoulder. Think about those connections as you turn. Don't let your right hip wang out to the right. Keep that sit bone pointing towards its own heel as you turn to the right. And come back to center. And stand tall. Now, walk back just a little bit from the chair. Bend your knees, lean forward, really firmly rooted through your hands into the back of the chair. Shift your weight into your right foot. Start to lift your left leg up behind you. Concentrate here on thinking, what? Sit bone to heel, of course. Sit bone to heel. Standing leg, super important. But also in the lifted leg. It's going to give you that feeling of stability. Put it down, shift your weight, lift the right leg. Same thing. Root down, sit bone to heel. Reach back, sit bone to heel. And put it down. Stand up tall, take a breath. And let it go. Once again, come around to the side of your chair and face your chair. Step firmly into your right foot. Lift your left leg onto the chair. Think about those relationships that we've been talking about, those connections that are going to help you feel stable and secure. And then take your left hand to your left shoulder and keep your right hand on the back of the chair and start to turn to your left. As you do so, can you keep that connection from the sit bone to the heel on the left leg so that your knee isn't winding out or in, but instead you're staying firm and stable as you twist. Come back to center, release the left foot to the ground. Pick the right leg up, put the right foot on the chair. And this time, take your left hand to your left knee. You could, if you want, take your right fingertips to your right shoulder. If that does not feel stable, keep your right hand on the chair and then begin to turn to your right. Same thing, notice, find the connection so that you feel stable. Come back to center, step the right leg off the chair, and then come back to sit. Come back to sit down in your chair. And sit a bit forward, not too far forward, not too far back. Sit tall, shoulders over hips, fingertips to shoulders. Now root down through those heels. Imagine again like that push down through each sit bone down to the heels so you really feel rooted and stable with a good foundation through your feet, and tip over towards the right. Now if a lot of weight shifted over into your right sit bone, can you counteract and press the left sit bone down? Come back to center, tip over to the left, counteract by pressing that right sit bone down. Come back to center, release your arms, take a nice deep breath in and out. Separate your feet wide, separate your knees wide as you comfortably can. All right, and then take your hands to your knees. Lean over a little bit to the right and press your left knee out to the left. So we're trying to get a sensation of lengthening in the inner thigh of the left leg. Back to center, other side. Lean a little to the left, press that right thigh back. And come back to center. Once again, lean a little bit to the right. Press the left thigh out to the left. If you would like to deepen the sensation of stretch a bit, you might slide the right arm down the inside of the right leg and push into that knee as well. So you're pushing the right forearm into the right knee, you're pushing the left hand into the left knee. And come on up. Lean left, press out through the right, stay here or slide down and press into the left as well. And come back up, slide those knees back together. Cross right ankle above left knee. Either hold your shin for support or give your thigh a little bit of gentle pressure down towards the ground. Now slide the right leg all the way over to the left, so you're crossing right at the knees. They're lining up. I know you can't see because my clothes are too dark, but we're crossing our legs at the knees, at the thighs. And then bring your left hand to the outside of your right thigh and take a turn to the right. Come back to center, unwind. Left ankle above right knee. Hold the shin for more support, or gently press the left thigh and knee down towards the ground. And then slide the left knee all the way over the right, cross-legged. Right hand to outside of left leg, turn to the left. And come back to center. Unwind the legs. Sit back and sit tall. Take a breath, open your arms out and then all the way up overhead. And exhale, release them back down by your sides. Nice slow breath out. Take your time. Again, breathe in, sweep the arms up. And then as slowly as you can, release your arms, release your breath. Time them to each other. Move really slowly. Try not to be empty of breath until your arms are all the way down. One more like that. Inhale, come on up. Slow breath out, slow lower. Hands to your thighs. Sit back in your chair. Relax. Close your eyes. Let your thighs relax. Let your belly relax. Soften your shoulders. Soften your throat. Release the little muscles around your mouth. Soften the crease between the eyebrows. Notice your breath. Follow it with your attention. Watch your breath with your attention. Let your next breath be a full, complete breath. Breathe in deeply. Release it out. Sit tall. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Take a nice full breath in. And a little bow. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that you have a beautiful day and enjoy the nice sunshine today.